if there's any time that you say something that it's a mistake, hold your hand up and just say, scratch that, and then pause and then pick up where you
Wait,
started.
like I say scratch that?
Yep, go ahead, say scratch it.
Great.
Because then when I go back and look for it or listen to the whole thing, I'll hear you say something and say, scratch that, and I'll stop, I'll back up, and then I'll figure out where we need to start back up. And it's easy to put it all back together. Okay? What grade are you guys in?
I'm a senior.
Both seniors?
No, I'm a sophomore.
We could have promoted you today.
You should have just lied.
If we were both seniors, then we'd both be gone next year.
Yep. That's by design, so we always
Yeah.
have somebody carry over.
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Oh, do I get to help interview the next person?
You do.
Oh, yes.
Or be like me and have a busy schedule so you can't go to like any of the interviews but like 2 of them.
That's all right.
That's okay.
You still contributed.
You guys are probably already used to having your phone ringers and everything shut off, but all right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. God, see, scratch that. Hello and welcome to the We Belong Here podcast, brought to you by the Grinnell Newburgh School Foundation. I'm your host, Dan Walker, and today we have kind of a continuation of our very first podcast where we had board members up here. Originally, I had Liz Hanson and Chelsea Copeland. Today, we have extension on the student-led side. So and I'll have Chelsea elaborate a little bit on what that means, but our special guest from the Student Advisory Council is Maggie Culp, senior. Nope, I just scratched that again. Maggie Kaup, a senior, and River Henfler, sophomore. And you two are both part of this advisory, or you are part of the advisory committee, but you're a part of the board members that are adults. So as we get further into this, you guys have a larger part of this podcast that we're going to elaborate on. But first, I'm going to jump back to Chelsea. You give us a little bit of explanation of what the role of everything is, and then we'll move forward into the girls' participation.
Sure. Well, back in 2020, we started discussing as a board that it'd be great to have some student voice on our board as well. So we added 2 student board members to GNSF, Elise Eisen and Iris McKenzie. And at first we were just thinking that, we would have those 2 board members and they would be kind of our connection to the schools, a voice for the student level for things for GNSF to make decisions with. Then we had the idea to add in a mini grant for those students. So our student board members write a grant request, just like our teachers write a grant request when we grant money twice a year through GNSF for up to $500 per year. The student project then, if it's approved by the board, can take place. And I'll let River and Maggie kind of discuss what some of those projects have been in recent years. But after our first board members made their project, we discovered, well, some of these projects will have things that carry over from year to year, and we'll need people to take care of them after those student board members are gone. And so that kind of gave birth to the idea of the advisory committee in 2022 then. So that's a less intensive involvement for a group of students to come together twice a month. Usually we just meet for 20 to 30 minutes and kind of touch base, and they go forth and kind of help us with some of the nuts and bolts, the boots on the ground type things that we need to accomplish for GNSF.
Okay, so the process of how do you get these gals to be a part of, and it doesn't have to be, we just happen to have 2 young ladies with us today. I'm sure it could be boys or anything.
Right.
But that process is...
So we start in the fall. Liz puts an announcement out for students to apply. And then I usually, in addition to that, kind of put a bug in some students' ear that I think would be a good match for GNSF. So anyone who applies will be interviewed then. And so Liz, myself, usually a few other board members and then whichever student board member is carrying over for that year will go through the interview process and make a choice of who our next board member will be. And then anyone who doesn't quite make the cut, we invite to join us for the advisory committee, and then we can add to the advisory committee any other students who maybe didn't want that intensive, requirement to be on the board and attend meetings, but they want to help GNSF out.
Okay, so we'll move on to Maggie and River. Maggie, tough question for you since you're the senior. What made you want to be a part of this group, or that you initiated that you wanted to fill an application out and be a part of it?
Yeah, well, originally, before I had heard of the application, I didn't know what GNSF was, because it was before we started doing things like a podcast and making it more public. So I really didn't know what it was, but when I found out what GNSF did, I was like, I feel like this is a perfect spot that I can fit right in, and it's a good way to like make a difference in the school and to be able to share my voice with some of the ideas. I just thought that maybe I'd be able to offer some perspective to their group from like the student side.
So you were a freshman when you started?
No, I was a junior, so it was last year, yeah.
So it was just last year.
Mhm.
But it could be any, as River's sitting here as a sophomore.
Right. Usually, we look at sophomores to seniors. We have interviewed freshmen, but we typically find, it's better for the students on the actual board to have a year under their belt at the high school and kind of be, adjusted to that environment, a little more in touch with the environment. But certainly open to anybody. And then, it just so happens to have worked out that usually the person on their second year is then a senior. And so we've had that person be the one who obviously leaves the board the next year.
With so the intent then, once you're on the board, so is River a 3-year member?
That will be up to her. We have had one person who was a board member, Mary Jacobson was a board member for her sophomore and junior years, but didn't have time her senior year. And so then we still had the normal process. But if River wants to stick with us for 3 years, we'll certainly have her.
Okay, let's move over and ask River a question. What made you intrigued that you wanted to be a part of this?
Oh yeah. So I was originally on the student council, and then when re-election came for the student council, I was like, what's another thing that I could do, either instead or with. I ended up not doing student council, but this year I saw the announcement, and then I read a bunch about GNSF, and I was like, oh, this sounds like the perfect thing that I could do to help out the school more and just generally do what I can as just one student to help organize it and make it a better place.
So as when you were on the student council, that was more your own peers, students all the way around. Was there, for either one of you, did it scare you or frighten you a little bit that you're going to be involved with adults working?
It was a little bit daunting, especially at like my first year of board meetings of like when it was, we always have a time in our board meeting for the students to give their report of like what we've done over the past month. And that was always scary. I would always have Ava, who was the person last year, the other representative. I would always be like, you do it, not me. So there was a little bit of that. Now, though, I would say it's pretty comfortable. I mean, I don't have student council experience from high school, so I don't really know, like, to compare it. But honestly, it's pretty chill now that all the adults, I, like, know all of them, and we're kind of friends, yeah.
Well, in the group that I met them at the tail end of one of your guys' meeting, and everyone is very responsive of helping. And if you had questions, I think anyone would probably answer the question and help you go in the right direction. Or if it was just what do I do next, I think they would give you a good answer. So that group of those directors are very, very good, and I think very receptive of helping in that direction. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the projects. We have a list in front of us.
Those are the student, yes, those are the past student grants.
Is it my phone? 'Cause I just turned on my phone to like look at the email,
Me too.
but
Fix
let me
something.
turn it back on. Is it actually?
Must just be enough. Which it's weird because now this is wireless, so it's kind of odd how.
Yeah. The interference. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's something.
100%.
Okay, so I guess we'll just work from memory.
Hold it like that.
Okay, I could probably work from
Well,
memory. I won't have
How about
dates.
how about this? I
We
give
can-
you this,
Okay.
and I will just ask the question of what are some of the ones that you guys
Great.
worked with, and you guys could go down that list.
Cool.
There you
I
go.
like that.
Like I said, don't make fun of my handwriting.
No, it's decent handwriting.
There's good handwriting.
So I'm recording all this, but it doesn't matter.
Let's start
Those are were those some of the original ones that are just still in place, or
Where's the-
was there other ones that?
2025.
Those are all the
Oh.
student grants that we've had so far.
Okay.
And they should all still be in place except the tutoring stopped with that group of students. But otherwise, we still have the graphing calculators. We're still filling the feminine hygiene products in the bathrooms.
Yes. Wait, scratch this.
Yes,
Are we
this-
like?
We're
is-
not interviewing right now.
Okay,
We're
that's
just
what I
getting
was
Dan
wondering. Is if
on the
this
right
is this part of
page.
the interview, or is
No.
this prepping you for the questions? Okay.
So, and that's another thing that when Liz and I were going through this.
Mhm.
Okay, so as I'm a grown-up male, but still to talk about
Yeah.
that subject is not really high on my list.
Yeah.
But if you want to just say that starting in 2021, name it, and then we could go to the next one. And like both of you guys talked about the calculating, the graphic calculators, and just kind of key on some of those. Okay, so we can
Yeah.
name off the projects, or how about Chelsea? You name off the projects, and then each one of you we could skip and then talk about that and that, down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that work?
So you want me to name it and then they explain what that project was?
Right.
Is that what you're thinking?
Each one of you could kind of fill in the blanks about how it was maybe introduced and how
Mhm.
it's being used today, and maybe some of the feedback from other students that are taking advantage of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could definitely do more on this one because that's the only one I was actually here for.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
All right.
Sounds good.
So picking up from Dan's scratch and a lot of noise, Chelsea, can you give us what are some of the projects starting back into like 2021 that the students are involved with, and then we'll jump over and have Maggie and River kind of fill in the blanks of how they're being used and what maybe the student reaction is to those.
Sure. So the first one that our very first student board members made was a place and a process to have feminine hygiene products available in the girls' bathrooms and locker rooms here at the high school. So that project involved installing shelves and putting up baskets. And then River's a part of the continuation of that project, so I can let her speak to how we're keeping it up today.
yeah, so every now and then, me and a friend, go and restock a box of the products, and then we distribute them pretty evenly in each bathroom, pretty a big stock so that in case we forget. And then,
Yeah, and She Counts helps us up with the upkeep of that, make sure we have enough of those products.
Okay. Move-
And then the second and fourth student grants were for graphing calculators to check out in the library.
Yeah, I know I have personally used that when I've had math class, because most of our math classes you need to check out. You need a graphic calculator for it. And if you're taking the ACTs, if you're taking like, actually I don't remember exactly which tests, but there are tests that you need to take that you need to have graphing calculators. And that's been really helpful. I know people really like it, and they're always checked out. That's why we wanted to replenish them and have more. Well, not replenish. Scratch that. and that's why we made sure last year that there were more of those available, so students could keep checking them out because they're really needed.
Now, how did that idea for that grant get started? I mean, was it basically people would hear that someone maybe bought one themselves, like, that's really cool, we wish we had more of those? Is that kind of where that stems from to make that purchase?
Basically, all of our grants have come from our student board members and our advisory committee, kind of starting to think and brainstorm lists of places that we see that need some assistance or that we could make better for the school environment. So, kind of the see a need, fill a need type mentality of things. So for that, we knew, graphing calculators cost $100 plus, and not everybody can afford that. And I know the math department had some, but there again, it was kind of, an in-demand item, especially for those students who couldn't afford it. So the board members that year, and then as Maggie alluded to, once we found out how popular they were, the board members last year again decided that that was a worthwhile project for our
To make
advisory.
additional purchases to have more available.
Right.
Okay. So you two, being also on the advisory committee, are your ears always open for just like that suggestion?
Yes, definitely.
I'd say so, yeah.
What, not to maybe give away what possible other grants are, but what are some of the top things that may be floating out there as suggestions for the future?
I don't think we've done a lot of talking about like actual future grant ideas at the advisory board yet. One grant idea that I actually interviewed with that I just remembered when you said that was expanding the invisible closet to involve formal wear, because I was thinking about the people who might not be as encouraged to go to dances because they're like, oh, I can't afford this piece of formal wear, and so they would be able to borrow one from the invisible closet, like a specific area devoted to that.
That's a great idea. I've seen other schools that have those for that particular purpose of that. So that is a great idea.
Well, and that's a great chance, River, to remind us to talk about this year's grant as well. So Maggie and River, do you want to talk about the grant that you guys wrote this year?
Yeah. So this year, we decided to partner with the Invisible Closet, and they actually are moving locations in the high school. So they were originally in a smaller area. It's kind of a little bit more tucked away, I would say. And it was great, but then there just isn't enough room because there's so many clothes, and students go there like all the time. And recently they started offering like food in that area as well. And so the people in charge of the Invisible Closet were like, we need to move it because we need to find a place that's more visible than invisible.
Right.
And so they're moving locations, and it's already pretty much set up in there. And what we decided to do, because we figured that there would be a need for it, is our grant is putting in organizational supplies in there, so like racks and stuff like that for the clothes to hang there and be organized, because they had donations, but when people donate to the Invisible Closet, they donate clothes because that's what you think of when you think of that. But not everybody thinks of, racks and shelves and things that they might need in that area. So we were like, they're probably not going to get donations for that. We should probably fill in and do that.
You said it exactly right. That's basically, so the Invisible Closet, again, is where students can come and go to get clothes and just other things they might need. And so it's really good that it is now the Visible Closet, and it's right in the middle of the school.
So a question on the visible closet. How is it that people actually contribute to that?
Around the school, I'm pretty sure there are posters about the Invisible Closet that the Student Council has put out that people can see or hopefully see, and then be like, oh, I have some clothes in my closet that I might not be wearing anymore, I might not need anymore, and this is a place I could put them instead of like Second Mile or another one of those secondhand stores.
Is it all stuff that students bring in, contribute to it, or can people from the outside do?
pretty much anyone can. I'd say if anybody had questions about it, to contact the high school office and they can kind of direct them. Right now, it's Jane McPhee, my assistant in the library, is also the advisor for student council, and so they take care of all of that and run it right now.
Okay. The only reason I asked, and I wasn't putting you guys on the spot, is that when you have the potential of a town of 10,000 people listening, that they may ask the question, hey, we would like to help out. And I know that at the other schools, the elementary schools, there's larger organizations that do just give on a normal contribution side of things. So if there's anything that we could help solicit to help you guys out, put more stuff other than just organization of racks, which I think will help tremendously, and especially if you brought more stuff in there to, make it visible to people. So that's a plus. Next question is, if you were to go out into your advisory committee or any other students, what would you tell them that would be a benefit to fill an application out to be a part of this board?
Oh yeah. Well, advisory we've been kind of changing it up a little bit this year, doing some more stuff. I would say it's a very low commitment way to make a big difference because it's really needed. We do stuff, we upkeep our grants, we create new grants, we all the time like there's an English language learners dinner coming up that the board is hosting at the middle school, and advisory plans to help out with that and like serve the food and like just things like that in the community that we've been doing, like that we just meet sometimes and we do stuff. And I think that to any students, if you want to make a difference in the school or in the community and you're not sure how, this is a really great place to start.
And let me, just to be clear, the advisory committee, are you two ahead of that advisory committee?
Like sort of, yeah. It's not like there's we don't have like a president or anything like that. We don't have like heads of that, but River and I do meet with Chelsea like beforehand and go over the agenda just so we can make sure we're all on track. Yeah.
How many total members of your advisory committee do you have?
This year, about 13 people. It's kind of one of those fluid type things where depending on the busyness of the season for students, certain people come sometimes and not others, but I'd say there's a good solid 8 students that are there on a regular basis and then some kind of interspersed at random.
Does that pull from all 4 grades, or again, does it go back to 10th grade through 12th grade?
All 4 grades.
All 4 grades.
Yep.
So you're at least getting input from everybody, per se,
Yeah.
instead of just the top 3 classes.
Yes, it really is like, and also to say, anyone can be a part of the committee and also anyone should be, because I think a big thing that we want moving forward is like we want people that are involved in all parts of the school. We don't want to be sitting there and being like, we should write a post about this activity, and then nobody at the table is in that activity, so we don't know what's going on. That's something we want to avoid. So we want to get people who know what's going on so that we have eyes and ears everywhere and can know where there's need everywhere in the school.
Well, as you grow older, you'll find out that the experience that you had with this committee will just blossom into opportunities as you grow older, because Chelsea will tell us, I'm a little bit older than Chelsea, but when you get involved in multiple organizations and multiple things that you could give back to, it is just a plus all the way around. And Maggie, you made many comments of how enlightening it was once you got into it, and how the peers of the board gave you, or you felt you had more respect of working with them. That carries true of everything that you'll be involved with, and this is just a small start of how that all happens in your lives. River, do you want to add anything else?
I don't think I do.
Okay. You just had the look like, I want to say something.
I was just going to say that we've had some really helpful freshmen on the board this year, and that's why I think it's a really good idea to have the advisory committee include all 4, because we have freshmen who are in sports, actually, which makes it really helpful to know what's going on with that.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your classes. I know that you should be in class right now. And Chelsea, taking time away from your job down in the Library Media Center, so I really appreciate that. And for everyone that's listening, if they have any more questions, I'm going to direct them back to Chelsea. Just reach out with anyone that's on the board that has questions, though, what they could do possibly to help out from the outside. I know there's a lot of public involvement or board members that are involved with the GNSF. And, you know, again, thank you for taking the time out. And it's really great to learn about these grants. There's so many grants that go around the school district that I don't think half the people in the city of Grinnell know about. So this is just another part that people get to give back. And as I always say, that our title of our podcast is We Belong Here. And even as students, you guys belong here and are a very big part of everything that goes on at Grinnell School District. So thank you for that. So I will close my name is Dan Walker. I'm your host for the We Belong Here podcast. And thank you. And as always, you can catch this on Monday nights at 7 o'clock. And thank you again.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.